Hey, so my summary for today. One part of the day I was checking the UI and giving feedback to Fiona. This was basically more or less about the flow to make a new plan, hosting plan. So we're still trying to finalize that part. Came pretty close. And the second part of my workday was basically trying to figure out how can we run parallel state machines. So we have now all these individual state machines for attesting, for encoding, for hosting. But we need to trigger all these machines from this main datdot service state machine. So this one is also a state machine, and it's calling submachines. So it's kind of, this one is connected to the kind of, it's used by the datdot service, and datdot service is listening to the substrate chain, to the events triggered by other users, and it's every user or every datdot node will run one instance of this datdot service, and datdot service will listen to events from the chain, and then it will have to kind of manage which state machines should run. So, for example, do I have it here? For example, at the beginning, it could just say like, hey, a test setup. So setup means when the new request for hosting is published, we make a setup, which is basically between a tester, encoder, and hoster. Encoder encodes or compresses the data. A tester verifies that it's that is a correct data and that it's correctly compressed, and then passes it on to the hoster. So this particular call is calling a test setup. So the part of the work that is done by the attester, but because every node can make multiple jobs at the same time, so that node can now attest in one particular hosting setup, but it can also participate in another hosting setup as encoder maybe, and in the third one as a hoster. So it should be able to do multiple jobs, and this all has to be managed by the datdot service state machine. And I've been basically reading or trying to figure out how can you run parallel state nodes. So that, because usually what is typical of the state machine, that you can only be in one state at a certain time. So now we have to figure out how this dot service state machine can go in multiple states at the same time. So yeah, I've been basically reading and trying out, and basically refactoring a little bit. So yeah, that was my day, and I guess I'll continue with this tomorrow, and also wait for Alex to finish the wire protocol module, so that then we can kind of communicate between all these modules and actually pass information about to help us basically transition from one to another state based on a certain task that should be done by a certain role in the whole process. So it's an interesting task, I have to say. I mean, the whole project, it has so many moving parts. It's a lot of like management type of thinking and translating this into the code. That's why we're also using the X state, so that we kind of like try to make all this clean, like a clean process and readable for everyone. So yeah, that's how it goes. Thanks. See you tomorrow.